Dear friends, today we are going to discuss very important aspect of communication. That is what is encoding and what is decoding. Mostly what we see in the exam is that this question is often asked and many of you make mistakes. So today we shall try to understand what is encoding. So think of a situation when a sender means I am communicating with you. In this case, I am the sender and you are the recipient, means you are the one who will receive this message. So decoding has to happen at your end. So what is encoding? Let us first understand A double P. A is the first code, P is the second code, and third is the P. So A means to copy somebody, but when you write A double P L E means you are adding up some more codes and the same code gives you different meaning. So when you are drafting your message, means when you are trying to communicate with somebody and you want to exchange some idea with somebody, then you have a message in your mind, and to create those messages you use several codes. That can be alphabet, that can be gesture, that can be sound, that can be picture, that can be any damn thing that is used to send your message. Many of you who are computer student, BCA program student, especially for those when you are programming something, then you are using some code, and those codes are created and crafted in a manner that gives a particular meaning to your thought process. Likewise, there is encryption. Suppose you are dealing with, say, cryptocurrency, and you want to communicate, means the user who wants to withdraw certain money or who wants to deposit certain money, he has to send a message where all the systems connected with this transaction, they give a permission. So when you are seeking permission, you send a certain code, and that code is validated by everyone. So from that perspective, if you think that that code is written, likewise when you create a password, that password is a code. So you are using numerals to create a code. So code can be different thing. When these codes are assembled together, then it makes a meaning. Likewise in defense sector, those who are working in defense sector, or those who are working in IB or some another organization, they also need to communicate with their field staff. But if that message somehow being hacked at some end, then there is a possibility that that message will be deciphered and that message will be conveyed to the enemy camp. So from that perspective, you use a particular code that only the recipient can understand. No matter even if it is leaked or it is read by somebody, it will be a meaningless term. So encoding is a process of creating meaning to a particular code by assembling it together, that helps us to draft a message and a sentence structure that will go to the recipient. So if we are to define encoding, then what is encoding? Encoding is a process of assembling those sign system, those codes, those alphabets, those sounds which gives meaning to a particular word, means it is for the exchange of your ideas, emotions, thought process or transaction of business, and this message is sent to the recipient. So this craft of message creating by using these codes are called encoding. So encoding can be sometimes very tedious for somebody to decipher unless and until the recipient knows. So encoding is that. So I hope you understand. Encoding is use of sign system, sound system, alphabets or whatever mechanism you say. Somebody is writing Devanagari Lipi, somebody is writing Roman, somebody is writing Japanese, Chinese, French or whichever language you are using, you have particular code of that language. So using those codes, you create words or sentence structure that is exactly conveying the meaning of your thought process. So your message is crafted by using these codes. This is called encoding. Encoding means use of code to create message, a meaningful message that will be sent to the recipient. I hope you have understood it clearly that what is called encoding. Now try to understand decoding. When this message is put into a channel, suppose you are sending somebody through computer or somebody, I am talking to you through sound system and creating a visual, and that visual will go to you. So many of you might not understand English, so they will not understand what I am talking to. Many of you might not understand Hindi, then even then you won't understand what I am saying to you. So whatever I am saying you, even if I have encoded it, it is rendered meaningless unless and until it is understood by you. So when this message reaches to the recipient, means those, for those these messages have been created, when it reaches to other end, then he starts unscrambling these codes and trying to understand the meaning. Sometimes when the sentence structure is simple and you I know the same language, and you and I know the same grammatical process, then we can easily understand the meaning. But when encoding is used to create a message which is secret, then the recipient must be told in advance as to what will be the meaning of the code, of a particular code. Those who are preparing for banking exam or other exams, you would have read EPM stands for 13, then 2m MCA square equal to this. So using this code you create a meaning of that sentence. So when a recipient tries to unscramble the thing or the message that has come to him for his consumption, he unscramble it and try to discover the meaning of that sentence and try to understand what the sender is saying. So decoding is a process of unscrambling all those codes which were used by the sender with a particular meaning to be understood by the receiver. So receiver is trying to understand the meaning of those alphabets, silent system, pictures, sound, visuals, caricatures, or say sometime you are mimicking somebody, or whatever messaging tool you are using, that is your choice, because coding can be into several process, it can happen through several process. So it is depending on the users as to which code he shall use to create a message for the recipient. So when the receiver tries to discover the meaning of those codes, that process is called decoding. So encoding and decoding both is a process of, one is creating a message, a meaningful message for the sender, whereas another is unscrambling those codes to understand the meaning of the message that has reached him. So I give you an interesting story as to how when something is coded and it is not understood by the recipient, then what can happen. Many of you might have heard the story of Kalidasa. So Kalidasa was sent by the mischievous Brahmins to marry a girl, because that girl did not accept proposals of several Brahmins, because she considered that these Brahmins are inferior in their knowledge, and she had this promise that she will marry to a man who is more knowledgeable than her. So this story I hope all of you have heard. So when these mischievous Brahmins thought that these girls should be treated in a manner that she should always repent in her life, because she has humiliated everybody, so she should be paid in the same coin. So these Brahmins, mischievous Brahmins, they decided that one of the fullest persons should be brought to this ceremony, and he should be anchored in a manner that he should look like as if he is the most knowledgeable person on this earth. So when he was traveling, he identified there was a person who was sitting on a branch of a tree, and he was cutting the same branch on which he was sitting. So these Brahmins decided that this could be the greatest fool on this earth, because he is not worried about and he has got no knowledge about what will happen. So he was drafted by these Brahmins to those function, and he was brought with this idea that he is the most knowledgeable person. So these Brahmins said ki today is the greatest scholar who is in the darbar, and he will have discussion with with Vidyotma. Vidyotma was Kalidasa's wife, if you recall her, the greatest lady, the greatest scholarly lady. But these Brahmins played a game. He said that today he is on a fast and he will simply speak by using his gestures. Means gesture is a tool of communication, as a science system, I have told you. Then Vidyotma asked her a question. Okay, how many gods are there? So when she asked this question, okay, how many gods are there? Then Kalidasa said, means the meaning, she was asking the question, how many gods are there? And the person who was deciphering those messages, because gesture was used to ask a question, so he understood that this lady is very notorious. She is trying to poke fingers on my eyes. So he, in this, when he was sitting with anger, he said, means I will poke both the fingers in your eyes. So he understood it this way, where the question was something different. And again, when these two fingers were poked, the receiver, Vidyotma, means Vidyotma, who was trying to decode the meaning of this gesture, she understood it that gods are two. One is within your soul and one is Almighty. So she realized that this gentleman is a great scholar. And both of them, while in the process of decoding, understood it totally different. Whereas the sender wanted to tell something else and the receiver received it something else. And you know, rest is history. So if the message is not properly decoded, it can play havoc and sometimes it can spoil everything that is being spoken there. Thanks a lot.